Imagine if someone created a fictional story in the time of the destructive Nazi rule and, well, it was a comedy. Well, imagine no more, because I'm Selina, and in my lecture vlog, I'm going to be exploring Taika Waititi's 2019 film Jojo Rabbit, a dark comedy that uniquely navigates the complexities of indoctrination and war through the eyes of a 10-year-old boy. I love this film and Taika Waititi for many reasons, and I believe it stands out, especially in response to this assignment. The two main aspects I want to analyse are Waititi's use of comedy and satire as a critique of Nazi ideology, and how telling this story from a child's perspective offers a fresh take on a heavily explored historical event. Jojo Rabbit blends satire with a coming-of-age narrative, making it both a unique and important exploration of its themes. I honestly really appreciate Waititi's approach, despite the controversial nature of combining comedy with war. The film's themes, I believe, are balanced masterfully through these aspects. So the key questions I want to explore in the narrative of Jojo Rabbit are essentially, why does Taika Waititi employ comedy of all to navigate the heavy emotional themes of war? And how does the perspective of a 10-year-old boy help shape and develop this narrative? First of all, comedy is a tool and essential part of this film. Very integral, I believe. And Waititi utilizes humor to satirize Nazi ideology and highlight the absurdity of the hatred. Satire is the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices. I think a great example of this within the film is that tense scene where one of the Gestapo agents exclaims very seriously to Jojo, "You may have heard a rumor that Hitler only has one ball. This is nonsense. He has 4. And I think this scene alone really reflects the impact of using comedy and satire to both expose and ridicule the Nazi ideology while also maintaining the undertones of terror and danger of the Nazis and their ultimate power. This is also especially relevant in this scene as the Gestapo agents are investigating Jojo's home while we as the viewers know that there is a Jewish girl hiding in that very house. The stakes and building suspense are incredibly high, and while the humor does ease the audience, we are still acutely aware of the danger ahead. I believe this encourages viewers to truly recognize and, yes, laugh at the stupidity and absurdity, but while also acknowledging and being deeply aware of what these stupid and absurd people have the power to do, and how these beliefs and ideology, no matter how stupid, ultimately lead to violence and war. Using comedy, I believe, also allows his narrative and ideas in Jojo Rabbit to be more accessible and thought-provoking, allowing the audience to engage with serious topics without feeling overwhelmed. This lighter approach makes it easier for audiences to confront uncomfortable truths about history and human behavior. Humor can break down barriers, making it easier for audiences to discuss sensitive subjects. The film's comedic elements invite conversations about its themes, allowing viewers to engage with the material in a more relaxed manner. In this way, the film also subverts expectations and engages the audience. And understandably, people will become uncomfortable when comedy is involved in discussions about people and horrific events such as Nazi Germany, Hitler, and I can understand there is a fine line there, but I don't believe Waititi crosses the line at all. In fact, I think he pushes the conversations about dictators, war, and violence forward. He says himself, one way of taking power away from those people is to laugh at them and to make a mockery of them, which is essentially what satire is. And this leads to my other point of analysis in his effective use of comedy through the character of Jojo's imaginary friend, which is Hitler, which also intertwines with the decision to tell the story through a 10-year-old's perspective. Imaginary Hitler serves as a personification of the indoctrination that Jojo has fallen victim to in the innocence of a young boy living in Germany, Nazi Germany in particular. It serves to show the inner world of Jojo through his coming-of-age journey and character development, as throughout the film he just fights with his preconceived ideas and Nazi ideology. This comedic yet unsettling figure of Jojo's imaginary friend represents the internalization of propaganda and the distorted beliefs and harmful ideologies that can arise from it, especially in the mind of an innocent youth like Jojo himself. However, as Jojo interacts with Elsa, who is the Jewish girl who his mother is hiding in their home, he begins to battle with this internalized ideology, and he begins to understand Elsa through her humanity and begins to question the propaganda he's been fed most of his life. This is communicated really well through the film, I think, as we see the relationship between Hitler, imaginary Hitler, and Jojo become very strained, with his imaginary friend expressing anger at Jojo and essentially saying he feels neglected as his friend. And I think one really pivotal moment, which really just represents this whole sort of journey, is when Jojo confronts Hitler about his changing perspective. Instead of accepting Hitler's manipulative guidance, he stands up to him, symbolizing his growth and the rejection of hate. This scene marks a turning point, showing Jojo's transition from indoctrination to empathy, ultimately illustrating the power of human connection over prejudice, which I think is incredibly important and one of the main ideas that sort of comes about Jojo Rabbit. Taika Waititi critiques indoctrination in Jojo Rabbit, honestly very uniquely, showing how it affects young minds while also emphasizing the potential for growth and change through empathy and understanding. It invites us to reflect on how easily young minds can be swayed by propaganda, illustrating the insidious nature of indoctrination. Yet, it also very powerfully underscores the potential for growth and change through empathy and understanding, which I've realized I've written twice. But anyways, Jojo's evolving relationship with Elsa just highlights just the transformative power of human connection. He begins to see Elsa as a person rather than the stereotype that he's been fed. And in this, he begins to dismantle the hateful beliefs that had been drilled into him, essentially. And honestly, moreover, Jojo Rabbit just challenges viewers to consider the role of humor in addressing serious historical events. By using satire, of course, to critique Nazi ideology, Waititi effectively encourages us to laugh at the absurdity of hatred rather than being paralyzed by it, which is incredibly important. And this unique blend of comedy and very emotional storytelling not only entertains but also serves as a catalyst for very important conversations about history, morality, and the human condition. And that's another point that I forgot to make, is that even though you were laughing quite a lot in the film, you were also crying a lot in the film, because even as I think the more lighthearted some moments were, then the more deep-hitting this heavier moments were, if that makes sense. And there was a lot of contrast too between the funny scenes and light scenes compared to the very heavy scenes, and it really just served to really get that point across and basically make it just more emotionally resonant with the audience. Yes. But ultimately, Jojo Rabbit stands as a testament, I think, to the resilience of the human spirit. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, love and understanding can prevail over fear and hatred. As we engage with the film's themes, we are encouraged to, reflect on our own beliefs and prejudice, and essentially our own imaginary friends. Of course, I'm sure many of ours is not an imaginary Hitler, but definitely a version of prejudice or a version of things we've been told that we internalize that we need to overcome as well. We need to stand up to as well. I think that's one very important, because although this film is about set in Nazi Germany and about that time, there's a lot of links you can make to just your own life and the own way, your perspective on life, essentially. And yes, but through this blend of humour and heart, Waititi crafts a narrative that is both a critique of the past and a hopeful vision for the future. And although that is the end of my Lit Crit vlog, I actually really also wanted to note about how the cinematography of that film really helped just move it forward as well, I believe. Sorry, I haven't quite put my thoughts down, but I really believe the color grading and also the way that some scenes were color graded very bright and colorful, and as they progressively got more heavy and more emotional things started happening, or just horrible things started happening, it did get darker again and it got more gloomy. I think that's very evident in the scene where that parallel between Jojo and his mother walking on this concrete thing and then but then if you contrast that to when she is essentially murdered and she's hung, and her fear also by his head, that two incredibly different color grades. One is bright, colorful, obviously through the eyes of a 10-year-old boy, very imaginative, but then the second one is just very dull, very real, and clearly marking Jojo losing his innocence. And yeah, I thought that was really important, and I think that's why I really like Taika Waititi's work, and all of his work, even expansive of Jojo Rabbit, like Boy and Into the Hunt to the Wilderness. Sorry, I can't remember. But anyways, I thought all his work was super incredible, and the cinematography played a big part in just making it much more impactful for the audience, including myself. So that is the end of my Lit Crit vlog, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening.